This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Very, very good morning. It is Thursday, the 15th of December. Thursday, the 15th of December. And yes, please, all of you who join me on these ad hoc transmissions, I enjoy the morning ones. I'll be honest with you. The morning ones, for me, mentally are easier to do because I get up, I'm fresher, and I can get them done. And the Sunday night ones, they're a tradition, aren't they? So if you value the Sunday night tradition, please do join me for this Sunday night. It might be our last Sunday night transmission. I'd like it not to be, but it might be our last Sunday night transmission. And I know all of you who have joined me, the 50 of you who are already with me, I know the majority of you have been supporting me. I need to share with you something. I find it really, really, really interesting. I've been getting messages from a number of people who have publicly put on Facebook that they're subscribing to me, or that they will be subscribing to me, or to send them details of how to subscribe to me. Now remember, the subscriptions are from £1 a month. Yeah? And those of you, and there are, you know, we've got 19, a combination of 19 people so far who have sponsored me with the 50 by 50. So some people have paid £1, and between them and their friends, they've come up with £50. Other people have just come out and paid me £50 direct. The vast, vast majority of those people have been on this journey with me for the best part of 4 years. Well, it seems those who are desperate to silence me, as well as forever sending YouTube complaints of defamation to try and limit my analysis, my political analysis, because that's what it is. Well, these people have now resorted to sending private messages to some of you. Apparently, I'm a con man. And I have a vendetta against Jim McMahon, and I'm anti-Pakistani, racist, and all of those things. Oh my. All the work is put out free to air. No one has to pay a penny if they don't want to. I'd like people to pay so I can get to minimum wage. What sort of con man would do what I do? What sort of con man would risk his life the way I have? What sort of con man? And some of you are here, and you know it, who've offered me money, and I've said it's too much, and I've refused to take it, and asked you to keep yourself within the the structure we've set up of £1, £3, £5, £10, 25 and 50. What sort of con man would do that? It's clear to me, as it should be clear to all of you by now, what this is all about. A very good morning to you as well, Gary. I'm looking forward. Gary is travelling up with his lovely wife to the meal we have planned next week. And sorry, I sent Dennis a message last night because I'd not got back to him. I'm afraid this is genuinely my... I don't have many of them, but I have a few what I call ethnic traits. For one of them, as my daughter found bemusing when she became a little bit older, was that I, like all of my friends, just walk into each other's houses. No matter where we've moved to, we just rock up and we don't knock on the door first. We try the handle first and just walk in. So my daughter's been brought up in a very middle-class environment, looked at me, I think she was only about 2.5 or 3 years old, and tried to explain to me that you meant to knock on doors first. Well, no. And the dinner invites, just turn up. If you want to come, just turn up. It is my friend's restaurant. I do have friends in the community. The lads who own the mill on, they are friends of mine. They've been friends of mine for 40 odd years, maybe more. I was helping one of them out last week. So just rock up. We'll sort out what, if, how we pay, all of that when we get there. The lads will just solve the tables for us. They've kept a space for us at one side. Just rock up. So please, if I'm not getting back to you or I'm being ambiguous, it is an ethnic failing of mine around invitations to dinner. The invitations to dinner are always an open invite. There's always an extra space. There's always an extra plate, and no one will go hungry. So please, by all means, turn up. And, in all honesty, I know times are hard. And if £25 is a bit too much for some of you, I'll cover it. I've got it. After everything all of you have done, for me, I'd like to share a meal with you. So that's what's important to me. We'll work it out. So by all means, next Tuesday night, 7:30, get to the Milan and I will be there. Okay? Anurul, the manager, the lad who owns the place, phoned me a couple of days ago. He wanted me to switch to a Wednesday. I said, no, mate, we've got people coming from all over the place. People have switched their days off. And he goes, but Roger, we've got a Michael Jackson tribute act on. We've got a Michael Jackson tribute act on a Wednesday. I didn't have the heart to tell him about all the controversy around Michael Jackson towards the end of his, fame. And it probably wouldn't be appropriate, all of us rocking up to a night at the Milan with a Michael Jackson tribute act. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the malicious blogger would have done if that was to take place? So please, Tuesday, all of you, as many of you as possible. It'd be good to see you. Julie, if your father's up for it, if you can get him there, if you need a lift, we'll get one arranged. It'd be, you know, it'd be lovely to have a meal with all of you. I am in court on Tuesday morning, is the other thing. I'm in court in Wigan. Excuse me, my eyes and my... So, I have a busy Tuesday. And, you know, if we finish on a Sunday, it'd be a nice way to finish on a Tuesday. We all share some food together. Where's my heated blanket? I went on Amazon, and I didn't like the Amazon ones. I've got to go to Dunelm, I think, for the one I've seen I want. So I'm going to venture out to Dunelm to get my heated blanket. Okay, let's carry on. You watched my transmission yesterday. My transmission was put out before the council meeting. Yeah. I talked about the policeman. I talked about the dodgy mayor's chaplain. I talked about a whole host of issues. Well, all hell broke out at the council meeting yesterday as the councillors finally realised, the opposition councillors, that they were completely ineffective. They were completely ineffective. And there is a way through this. I need to go and blow my nose, so excuse me for 1 minute, but I'm going to press play on the council meeting. And I want you to watch it. I'm going to pause it at key moments. And explain to you what's going on. It's 3 hours, but we're not 3.5 hours, but we're not going to do that. We're going to fast forward big chunks of it. There are sections I want to go through with you. Okay? So I've done all of that in the background. Let's whiz through it. And some brave councillors there. Mark Wilkinson, immensely brave. And Dave Arnott, immensely brave. I'm going to, Failsworth Independent and a Conservative. Call it as I see it. 2 brave councillors there. So let's get on with this.
May I remind members and members of the public that the meeting will be streamed live on a webcast from the Council's website. The Council has a commitment to conduct its full Council business in an environment that is welcoming, secure and safe for members, employees and visitors. It is important that meetings are conducted in a safe and fair manner. All persons present at meetings should be treated with courtesy and respect. This includes members of the public, elected members, employees and visitors. Behaviours, language or actions that impact public safety, cause disruption and or adjournment to the course of business at meetings are not acceptable. Members of the public are asked, therefore, to note the public meeting protocol, which is also available on the Council's website, and elected members are reminded to note that elected members protocol under the Members' Code of Conduct, which was signed upon taking office, which provides details of expected principles of behaviour. The meeting protocol is available on the Council website. We now move on to the agenda. And item 1 is apologies. I've received apologies from Councillor Shoham, Islam, Marland, Quigg, Alias, Esh-Bathford, Akhtar and Ahmed. Is there any more apologies? Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is Greater Manchester Policing Plan Update. Does the Council agree to suspend the Council protocol rules to allow Chief Superintendent Bowen to address full council? Thank you. I call on Chief Superintendent Bowen to speak.
Now remember, I told you the copper would be there, and my thoughts were that this dodgy copper, because that's what he is, a dodgy copper, will stand up and talk complete nonsense about how great they're doing. You ready?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much for inviting me back. Believe it or not, it was 14 months ago, I think, when I spoke to you. A lot has changed. For a start, we've moved into this room again. The last time was in the big hall as I walked all in, and I'd never seen any of you before. Now, over the last 14 months, I've got to know some of you quite well. And what I did promise I would do 14 months ago, was to come back and tell you the progress that we've made. Again, some of those things that I said clearly needed improvement within the police in Oldham. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to come back today and go through some of those with you. I'm going to try my best to keep this flowing, but there's quite a lot of stats in it, because one of the ways I can show the improvement is to give you stats, okay? So please bear with me, but I'll try and give it context.
So one of the ways in which he can demonstrate progress is by giving you statistics. Remember, this dodgy policeman, Greater Manchester Police, his Chief Superintendent from Oldham, blocked a Freedom of Information request asking for stats, and then was shamed when the council's own partner newspaper, the Oldham Times, went public. Blocked the statistics, and he brazenly sits there next to Paul Bentwistle, Elizabeth DROGAN, and the mayor, wanting to draw your attention to the statistics which give value. Well, let's have a look at this dodgy policeman, bent policeman statistics.
I'm going to try and make it Oldham specific wherever that data is held. So you'll have seen quite a lot of stuff in the media from the Chief Constable himself around us coming out of special measures, etc. But that's GMP wide. So hopefully today we'll give you that Oldham context, which will help you in your conversations with your communities and the people that you work with. So to start, there's a couple of key points I think that are really important at the beginning. GMP is now the most improved force in the country. And that
straight away, GMP is now the most improved force in the country. Well, listen, when you were in accelerated special measures, worse than worse could be, the slightest improvement gets you to a place of the most improved. You're not in any way competent. If you were really, 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 really crap, and now you're just crap, that's not something to be proud of, Mr. Bent Policeman. Is it? And indeed, Tony, he was there on the 27th of June. He forgets that because all he had was a script. I'm really, really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. My police officers ignored the gang rape of little girls. I'm really, really sorry. We didn't mean to hand over little girls to Pakistani rapists. I'm really, really sorry. We didn't mean to say it was the girls' fault for being raped and then trafficked. I'm really, really sorry. We didn't know Shabir Ahmed was working for the council, and we forgot to tell the council when we arrested him. I'm really, really sorry.
The verdict of Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, and it's been removed from what was known as engaged status. Engaged status special measures, interoperable terms. So we were removed from that very recently. And what it states is we're moving from the green shoots of recovery to sustained and comprehensive transformation. GMP has done this by investing in the leadership, the workforce and the governance structures to deliver those improvements. I said to you 12 months back that I was part of the team that was brought over, and my sole purpose was to drive those improvements in Oldham. And hopefully what I'll be able to talk to you about over the next 10 minutes will prove that we're making significant strides in the right direction. But I am not going to sit here today and tell you that everything is sorted, because it's not. But I will tell you the progress that we are making. The force is currently delivering significant reviews that are nearing completion, including the neighbourhood review, the response review, crime futures review, and these three together will create the new model for policing here in Greater Manchester. So the improvements we have delivered so far are based on the old structure that was in place in Greater Manchester. But by delivering governance and improvements to performance, we've already got to a certain point. By changing to the new model of policing in Greater Manchester, we will push that further forward to get to where we want to be, and that's to put Greater Manchester Police back at the forefront of policing in the United Kingdom as an exceptional, outstanding force. So we talked 12 months ago about responding to incidents and emergencies. You will have said you can't get through. You ring 39s, no one answers the phone. You ring 101, no one answers the phone. I can tell you now that 999 call answering times in Greater Manchester are the fastest they have been over the last 2 years. We are consistently in the top 10 forces in the UK and are the best large metropolitan force in the country for answering 999 calls now. Our non-emergency speed of answer is now also operating at, on average, less than 2 minutes.
He wants the most improved police force, right? The most improved police force is opening gambit to demonstrate how they are the most improved police force and how we all should be so pleased with them, is that they now pick up the phone. They now pick up the phone when you dial 999. That is the mark of success. We now pick up the phone. If you phone us, we now pick up the phone. We now pick up the phone. That's its headline marker of success. We now pick up the phone. And the people next to him have got a straight face. We now pick up the phone.
Now, some of you will hear horror stories, and I'm not going to say that sometimes, if lots of people ring together, those figures don't increase significantly. But these are the facts. You can get through to us when we ring now. So bringing it to Oldham context, which is the important bit, I think. So whilst I've seen an increase in demand on a rolling 12 months from 753 emergency calls to 899, we've brought down the average attendance on an emergency graded call in Oldham from 14 minutes 16 seconds to 9 minutes 25 seconds. We are consistently getting to over 85% of grade 1 emergencies within the 15-minute target provided by the government, and the vast majority of the ones outside the 85% that we get into are narrowly missed. Last week, I can confirm we got to 93% of grade 1 calls within the 15 minutes. Our grade 2...
I've taught you by now the secret to statistics is what he doesn't mention, it's what they omit. Grade 1 emergencies, 90%. How many of them? How many of them? 10, 100, 1,000? Let's just play that little bit back.
Policing in the United Kingdom has an exceptional, outstanding force.
Just listen to it.
So we talked 12 months ago about responding to incidents and emergencies. You will have said you can't get through. You ring 39s, no one answers the phone. You ring 101, no one answers the phone. I can tell you now that 999 call answering times in Greater Manchester are the fastest they have been over the last 2 years. We are consistently in the top 10 forces in the UK and are the best large metropolitan force in the country for answering 999 calls now. Our non-emergency speed of answer is now also operating at, on average, less than 2 minutes. Now, some of you will hear horror stories, and I'm not going to say that sometimes, if lots of people ring together, those figures don't increase significantly. But these are the facts. You can get through to us when we ring now. So bringing it to Oldham context, which is the important bit, I think. So whilst I've seen an increase in demand on a rolling 12 months from 753 emergency calls to 899, we've brought down the average attendance on an emergency.
So 899 emergency calls. Yeah, but he doesn't rank them. He doesn't say how many were.
Degraded call in Oldham from 14 minutes 16 seconds to 9 minutes 25 seconds. We are consistently getting to over 85% of grade 1 emergencies within the 15-minute target provided by the government, and the vast majority of the ones outside the 85% that we get into are narrowly missed. Last week, I can confirm we got to 93% of grade 1 calls within the 15 minutes. Our grade...
Okay, last week he got to 93 grade 1 calls within 15 minutes. How many grade 1 calls were there last week, Chief Superintendent? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Do you see? Do you see the omission? These people think you're stupid. And look at Bentwistle and Drogan. Forget the mayor. She hasn't got a clue what's going on. But look at Drogan and Bentwistle.
2, so that's non-emergency, so that's within the hour. You will have heard me tell you last time I spoke that it was over 16-hour average to get to those calls, which is totally unacceptable. I can now tell you we've reduced that to 3 hours. It's not where I want it to be, but I'm sure you'll agree that 3 hours is significantly better than 16 hours.
Tell that to the victims. 3 hours is better than 16 or 19. Tell that to the victims. Tell that to the victims of crime. 3 hours.
And we've taken us up from 19.9% of calls being reached within the 1 hour target to around 50% on a rolling basis. Again,
so when he says around 50%, he means less than 50%. Well, less than 50%. When you're given precise statistics, as in 30%, 32%, 93%, you heard him say, why is he now saying around 50%? Look at him. Just look at him. He's misleading the council. This is a full council meeting and he's misleading the council. The Pakistani rape gang protectors from Greater Manchester Police, who worked in partnership with Oldham Council to facilitate the grooming and gang rape and cover it up of our town's children, is now sat there misleading the council with the way he's representing his statistics and what he's omitting. When you talk in the language of percentages, you don't say around or in the region of or consistently. He's a policeman. He's a senior policeman. There should be precise figures and not just percentages, but the percentages should be backed up with specific numbers.
Significant improvements, but not where I want it to be. And what we've introduced is better use of an appointment system.
So where is it you want it to be? Where is it you want it to be? He never says where it is he wants it to be.
Where we can agree time for the appropriate to the caller. So lots of times, rather than sitting in for the whole day or saying we'll come next day, etc., we will agree an actual time with the caller, which gives it victim focus, which is what's important.
He wants to be the best police force in the country. And you know what he's proud of now? The second thing he's proud of? The first thing he's proud of, we pick up the phone. And the second thing he's now proud of is we've introduced an appointment system. We've introduced an appointment system. A 3-hour window, a 5-hour, you'd have to wait in all day. We'll come during a slot in the day to come and visit you. An appointment system.
I spoke to you before about open crime. When I arrived in Oldham, we were circa 6,500 open crimes being investigated. I can tell you today we're at 3,100, which is a reduction of over 50%, which means we are doing positive investigations to crimes in a proportionate, effective and timely way for our communities. And all crime is proportionately investigated. I told you I would increase arrests.
All crime is proportionally investigated. He's reduced the numbers from 6,000 to 3,000, but he doesn't say what's happened with those 3,000 it's been reduced by. You know and I know what's happened with those 3,000, don't we? Yeah.
In the district to bring offenders to justice at the earliest opportunity. I can tell you that arrests have risen by 51.6%. And I can confirm that domestic abuse arrests have risen by 58% in Oldham.
Sorry, that's me. If you are proud of this, dodgy policeman, what does that say about what was happening before? If domestic violence arrests are now at 58% more, what does that say about what you've done? What does that say? Yeah. I'm still waiting, by the way. Victim of crime, victim of serious crime. And I've caught the bent police officers hiding evidence. Oh, yeah. Hiding evidence. And you know who put them in it? Another police force put them in it. Greater Manchester Police is bent, and this policeman is spinning a yarn, isn't he? He's spinning a yarn. Wait for that. You'll get to that. Wait for that.
Last 12 months. In the last 12 months, 1,562 offences have resulted in a charge or a summons. And that's an increase of 549 compared to the previous 12 months, or 54% for those of you who like percentages.
See? Talking nonsense.
We've
Talking
increased
nonsense.
the use of civil powers, including domestic violence protection notices. They have increased by 207%, and we issued 159 of those in the last 12 months. Using the asset recovery programme proactively, I've been able to redistribute over £150,000 worth of criminal assets to good causes in Oldham, including a new vehicle for the mountain rescue team, new drainage systems at Fitton Hill Bulldogs rugby team, extensive refurbishments at the Ioannis youth-based project at the Old Chadderton Library, as well as projects at Madlow and other youth organisations.
The last time I looked at the Old Chadderton Library, the last time I remember looking at the Old Chadderton Library, it was an Islamic school. McMahon had been involved with a man called Mohibur Rahman from CSDA, dodgy. The CSDA company, the former chief executive, was done for some serious dodginess, convicted. Are you now telling me the proceeds of crime is going, the money from the proceeds of crime is going to funding these businesses, these very organisations? But it's okay. It's bought Mountain Rescue, a new vehicle. It's bought a Mountain Rescue, a new vehicle. It still is, isn't it, Tony? It's an Islamic school, isn't it? The Old Chadderton Library. And he did say the Old Chadderton Library. I've not imagined that. I only know one Old Chadderton Library. You've got to hand it to the cartels, haven't you? You've got to hand it to them. They took some money off us, mate. They raided us and took 100 grand off our drugs money. What can we do? Oh, it's all right. We'll get one of the youth projects we run to put in for a grant. We'll get one of the Muslim youth projects we run to put in for a grant. Come on. You've got to give. That's some brass neck. It's some brass in it. It's some cheek. That's impressive. Get the building handed over for next to nothing in exchange for some samosas. Feed McMahon. Invite him round for some curry. Doesn't matter that the health and safety and the child safeguarding was condemned at that place. That the imam had sexual relationships with the minors there. We'll apply for a grant from the proceeds of crime. Oh, sorry.
I said I'd aim to prevent and reduce crime and antisocial. I introduced Operation Vortex, which runs throughout the year. Proactive drugs warrants based in the communities are done on a weekly basis. Only yesterday we discovered a 2-floor cannabis farm. And those of you remember earlier in the year Operation Avro, which resulted in 54 arrests in one day, 23 search warrants being executed, and you'll be pleased to know it's coming back very soon in the new year.
So Operation Avro, 53 arrests, 23 search warrants. You'll be pleased to know it's coming back in the new year. How many of those 53 arrests led to prosecutions? How many of those 53 arrests? You'll be pleased to know it's coming back in the new year. What a div. What a complete and utter div.
But for obvious reasons, in a public meeting, I'm not going to give you the date.
Oh, no, I'm not going to give you the date.
I told you we would try our best to deliver an outstanding service. So what I push with my staff is getting things right first time, keeping our victims up to date. And we've shown significant improvement in all measures there too. I told you we would use proactive search powers such as stop and search. Stop and search powers in Oldham has increased by 468% in the last 12 months. The positive outcome rate has remained at 21.5% and is increasing as officers gain confidence in using powers.
So stop and search actually been proven to be completely ineffective. All the stats show it's ineffective in terms of what it does and the damage it does. But that's by the by, because the police always use it disproportionately and wrongly. He's just admitted that 4 out of 5 stop and searches, 4 out of 5 stop and searches, 80% of them. Where's his statistics now, boy? Or should I say boy or? 80% of his stop and searches, 4 out of 5, are stopping the wrong people who've done absolutely nothing wrong. 4 out of 5.
That for various reasons they'd lost confidence in using for a number of years. It's pleasing to know that we've had no increase in complaints around the use of these powers because they've been used appropriately and proactively arrested criminals, taking them off the street.
How can he contradict himself? How can he contradict himself? They've been used appropriately and took, no complaints. They took people off the streets when 4 out of 5 of your stop and searches were wrong. 4 out of 5 were wrong. Look at him. Just look at him. Look at the mayor. I wish he'd stop. I don't know what he's talking about. I want to go home. This chain's heavy. I don't get paid enough for this.
Before they are able to commit crime. I promise to make Oldham the safest place to work and visit in Greater Manchester, and I stand by that commitment. I accept the journey is far from complete, but I thought an appropriate festive quote from Noddy Holder and Slade's famous Christmas song would be appropriate at this time. Look to the future now, it's only just begun. So thank you very much for your time, and I take this opportunity to wish you all festive.
Did he just really do that? Did he just really do that? Look to the future now, it's only just begun. Have you said that to the children that were gang raped, that your policemen handed over to the Pakistani mobsters? Look to the future now, it's only just begun. You're spot on with that, mate. You're spot on with that. It's the reincarnation of Jimbo in off Bullseye. Yes, and Liz Drogan has gone. It would be inappropriate for me to comment on where she's gone and whether she has a hip flask. Look to the future now. It's only just begun. I think he's paid about 200 grand a year. 150, I think, something like that. Is that not, are you doing a line out of Queen? Is that Bohemian Rhapsody? Ready for the questions that are asked of him. So he's set it out that says, everything's great. We're on the way up, lads. Now listen to the questions.
Greetings. Hope your good wishes for the holiday season to you and your families. And may peace and joy in the holidays be with you today and throughout the new year.
Thank you, Chief Superintendent. There'll be now 2 questions from each group. I call upon Councillor Chadderton to ask the first question for Labour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank Chief Superintendent Bowen as well for the update, which I really welcome, particularly the improvements you have made in terms of responsiveness to our residents has been impressive, so well done to yourself and all your team on that, and also as it's replicated across Greater Manchester for all 10 of us, so well done to Stephen Watson as well. Now, next month, as you'll know, Inspector Bowen, will be 6 months since myself, you, Andy Burnham and Stephen Watson hosted a press conference right here, well, we did one in Manchester and then here, following the publication of the independent review of historic child sexual exploitation in Oldham. Now, understandably, the review generated a lot of interest and continues to do so in Oldham and beyond. People in Oldham were rightly horrified by things that they read in that report and the accounts of those survivors. And now, rightly, people in Oldham, and include every single one of us in this chamber today, expect to see justice in respect of those peoples that carried out those atrocious acts to those children. Can the Chief Superintendent update us on the progress of bringing those people to justice through Operation Sherwood? Thank you.
Sorry, she's trying to shift responsibility to the police. You can see that there. Operation Sherwood. The CSE stuff. Nothing about the council's failings. Or her and her mates who are complicit in the cover-up. And continue to be complicit in the cover-up. And historic, Tony. Yeah, historic. When Arood Shah admitted it was still happening today. In her last speech as a council leader before we took her out. So if I ask that question, I'd want to know how many people have been arrested as part of Operation Sherwood. Yeah. How many more victims have come forward? How many victims have they spoken to? Remember, he's given you the statistics. He's gone on with the statistics. This number of crime, that this, 50%, 10, 100,000. He's given you numbers. Consistently in his presentation, he's given you numbers and percentages.
Yeah, the dedicated team of Operation Sherwood within the 4 CSE unit and alongside our key partners continue the committed work in response to the 10 child sexual exploitation cases featured within the assurance report. They are ensuring those victims are supported and have absolute intention of bringing those perpetrators to justice. The public interest in the safeguarding report and investigations of non-recent child sexual exploitation within Oldham is appreciated. However, to ensure that justice can prevail for the victims and communities, the investigations must operate under the strictest controls to guard against any prejudicial influence on criminal justice processes. Once investigations into criminal offences commence, even from the earliest stage, they become sub judice, and whilst under judicial consideration, become prohibited from public discussion. But I do reassure all members here that we are giving confidential updates to the cross-party CSE group on a regular basis and will continue to do so. And once we are in a position to make more public announcements, again, we will do so.
So he makes reference to the 10 victims in the report. The 10 victims in the report, as we all know, are not the only victims. So that's outrageous. And then he tells an outright lie. He has the brazen, his neck to tell an outright lie. He won't give you numbers and he tries to hide behind judiciary and criminal process. You know why it's an outright lie? Remember a few months ago when they put the video out on YouTube, or not YouTube, Facebook, and on the where Operation Sherwood were issuing arrests and doing raids? Do you remember that? It was just a PR stunt, wasn't it? Because if they've done that themselves, they can sure as hell say There's nothing to prevent him from saying, we've made 10 arrests, we've made 20 arrests, we've made 30 arrests. He's not saying anything. We've charged 5 people, we've charged 6 people. There is nothing, absolutely nothing in the legal system for the senior police officer to give us those stats. And you know why he's not giving us those stats? I'll tell you why I think he's not giving us those stats. Because they've arrested no one, they've charged no one, and they've helped no one. Where's your stats now, boyo? Where's your percentages now? Where's your numbers now? Hiding behind it will affect any criminal proceedings. Absolute nonsense. You talked about Operation Avro. 23 search warrants. Well, how many search warrants here? 50-something arrests. Well, how many arrests here? He's taking you for fools. He's taking you all for fools.
Thank you. Can I have the next question from the Labour group, please?
Thank you, Chief Superintendent. I represent Royal North, and when I'm out and about, whether I'm canvassing or bumping into people, the hottest topic when it comes to law and order is speeding motorists. So I'm just wondering what plan you've got. I mean, I should imagine it's probably the same all over Oldham. What plan have you got, GMP got to put in place to stop this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the...
Pythian is not the brightest, is he? Let's be clear. What plan do you have in place to stop speeding motorists? Watch this. So you've seen him dodge the last question. He's on safer ground now. He's on safer ground now. Speeding motorists are safer ground.
Question there, Councillor. Well, you'll be pleased to know that one of the key priorities Mr Watson made when he took over as Chief Constable was to bring the traffic department within Greater Manchester as a whole, and in turn Oldham's share, more in line with national pro rata. So they've more than doubled the size of the traffic department in Greater Manchester, aiming to be at 140 officers by the end of this year. It was closer to 55 when Mr Watson took over. Clearly, there takes time to train, takes time to get them all operational, but significant investment is ongoing in that department as we speak, and a number of officers have transferred over from other forces because they see the journey that Greater Manchester are going on, and they have brought with them the skills that we need to put them straight out onto the street to make that difference. So hopefully we'll start seeing that improvement and the visibility of our trusted traffic colleagues.
Okay. You're going to have more traffic police, and it's claiming a number of other police officers from other forces have transferred to Greater Manchester to be traffic police. He won't say how many. More importantly, he won't say how many have left, because they want nothing to do with him.
Thank you. 2 questions from the Liberal Democrats. I've got Councillor Sykes and Councillor Al-Hamdani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your update this afternoon. Some very encouraging news there. But the question I want to ask, despite what you've said, and I wouldn't question it at all, is the similar question I asked last time you were here, which was, like you were saying, 14 months ago, is when we will start to see the difference, and more importantly, when will the people I represent start to feel the difference? Because that isn't, despite everything you've done, the very clear message I get from people when I speak to them in my ward and in my community. And I want to be clear, there are some valiant efforts done by police officers on the ground and the support staff, and that is appreciated. But in terms of what my constituents tell me, it does still feel, or there hasn't been much change from the bad old days pre the new Chief Constable. And as elected representatives, it's my job to raise those grievances from the public, and I accept there might be a time lag. The thing I want to ask specifically is I know from conversations with people involved in the service that when fully operational, GMP in Oldham should have, give or take, and it depends how you count these, about 30 officers across the borough. But at a number of points this year, that operational number of officers has been down to the low teens, and we'll never have effective policing in this borough while the numbers are so low. So what are the barriers to having our local force fully staffed, and how do you see staff pressures developing in 2023? And my other part of the question, which the leader hinted at in her question, was regarding the CSE review. In December 2018, this authority requested extra vetting help from GMP, with the head of licensing saying they had no faith in DBS checks. That request was acknowledged when the new Chief Constable was appointed in May 2021. Then, despite this Liberal Democrat group, my colleagues and I, chasing GMP via Burnham in August, and despite the question being put to officers at various shadow cabinet briefings in October, November and December this year, officers have sadly confirmed that there has been no meaningful response from GMP. When the head of licensing says he has no faith in DBS checks in 2018 and needs help from GMP, how many years is it reasonable to wait for a constructive response to a legitimate plea for help? Thank you.
So two questions.
Thank you very much for the question. I'll try to remember all the different bits. Okay, so to start...
The most senior police officer will try to remember all the different bits. There weren't that many different bits there. There weren't that many different bits there at all.
With staffing, GMP has undergone in the last financial year the biggest recruitment drive for police officers ever seen in any police force. We are currently taking on 120 police officers every 5 weeks. I had the pleasure of being at Sedgley.
I'm going to stop that there because it's important. The most senior policeman in Oldham, and you all pay Andy Burnham for your police officers. A fortune. It's on your council tax bills. They're taking on, 130 new police officers every 5 weeks, they're claiming. 130 police officers every 5 weeks. Yet here, in Oldham, as confirmed by Howard Sykes, a full rota of police officers across the town, in terms of out and about, is 30. Just 30. And despite that, as confirmed by Howard Sykes, on many occasions, and I ain't got the statistics to go into it, but the number is in the low teens. So there aren't enough police officers to get across the Metropolitan Borough of Oldham. Remember, they work in pairs. So what's he going to do about that? What's he going to do about that?
I think it was last Monday, to welcome the latest 120 officers. Now, clearly, 120 officers goes across the whole of GMP, but Oldham's share is obviously pro rata. The issue that we do have, and then filtering down onto the front line.
So Oldham's share is pro rata. What does it mean by pro rata? Is it 120 divided by 10 local authorities, so we get 12? Or is it pro rata based upon the population of of all 10 local authorities? He's talking nonsense. This man is talking gobbledygook.
Is clearly, the day they arrive, they're not a fully functioning police officer with the best will in the world. Just like in the vast majority of your professions, training is required, and we have to make sure that they are operationally and occupationally competent to be able to go out on the streets so that it's safe for them and safe for our communities. But what I can reassure you is every 5 weeks I have the pleasure of welcoming the next batch to Oldham. It's literally come in my diary today that our next batch arrives on the 3rd of January, where we'll get another 7. And 5 weeks after that, another 9, and 5 weeks after that, another 10. Now, those numbers do bolster. Now, clearly, they do have training to do as well, so they come, they do some time on the front line, they go back and do training, and this goes on for the first couple of years of their career. But I can tell you there is a well thought out plan added to the external recruitment we've done from other forces, which is bolstering the numbers here in Oldham and across Greater Manchester. So that's part one of the question.
So he's not answered it, has he? He's not answered part one of the question. Why aren't there 30 police officers out on the streets? Which is your minimum standard. As according to your plan, there should be 30 police officers out on the streets. Why is it in the low teens? He's not answered the question. Is it because you've not got the police officers? Is it because they're all often sick? Is it because they've left? Is it because they're nibbling samosas in the chicken shops? Why? He's not answered the question. At all. He's presented a hypothetical future at an unspecified time of when it'll all be great, but he's not answered the question. Let's move on to the CSE. This question is specifically about the head of licensing needs help from Greater Manchester Police to do with the DBS checks because, as we now has been forced out of these bastards, convicted child sex offenders were allowed to continue operating as taxi drivers and accessing children in our town. Forced out of them. That's what's been forced out of them. And it wasn't a cover-up, by the way, but they didn't tell you. So if that was not a cover-up, I'm not sure what a cover-up actually is. And apparently in 2018, December 2018, the head of licensing and the council wrote to Greater Manchester Police, what's your average time? What was it? 30 minutes? 3 hours? 3 hours. Non-essential. I consider this essential. 15 minutes. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 December. 4 years. 4 years. And he still sat there. Let's hear what he had to say.
To the question around information sharing. I don't have the specifics of that particular thing, but I will undertake to bring an answer back via the council to that issue. However, what I can reassure you is that whenever any request for specific information has been received by myself or my team since I've been here, we have been in a position to share it, and we have made a number of disclosures which wouldn't have appeared on DBS but were appropriate in a public interest to protect our communities, and we'll continue to do that as and when information comes to light.
So he's fudged it. He's trying to say it didn't happen on my watch and I didn't know about it. Well, bent policeman. This was raised in the grooming gang report from Andy Burnham. So it's there. It's actually in that report that you stood and you sat there and said, we accept all of this. We're very, very sorry. We're very, very sorry. So why do you not know about it if it's in the actual report of how dodgy taxi drivers were able to dodge DBS checks? It was in the report, policeman. A report that you have claimed, you and your Greater Manchester Police colleagues have claimed you took in all seriousness. And now the most senior policeman in the town is claiming he knows nothing about it. And then tries to talk some nonsense. Oh, but we shared information that we thought was of interest, even though it's not in the DBS checks. Councillors sit on licensing committees there. They've not seen you share any of that. That's where we're at, isn't it, David? These senior coppers aren't coppers. The careerist politicians.
Thank you. Councillor Al-Hamdani.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just with reference to the figures that you brought before, I was particularly pleased to hear the figures you said on domestic violence, and because that was one of the things that had been referred previously to GMP repeatedly. So I hope that that's going to filter through, and we'll see His Majesty's Inspectorate come back and sort of with matching kind of hopefully praise down the line. But the specifics of the question not related to that. I was just applauding that. So the Greater Manchester Mayor previously stated an ambition to have a named officer for every Greater Manchester ward. Can I ask you which, if any, Oldham wards had a named officer throughout the last year? And more than that, what proportion of the time of when we do have a named officer are they transferred away? I'm aware that my sergeant has been transferred away to work on murder investigations in Manchester. So if they're spending time being seconded, how much time do we not have neighbourhood police officers in that sense? Not just the named person, but then they're away. Thank you.
One of the reviews I outlined in my kind of brief overview was the neighbourhood review. Part of the neighbourhood review was to look at neighbourhood policing across the piece, to try and bring in an effective neighbourhood policing model across Greater Manchester. The situation was we had different ones in different areas, and what we wanted to do was identify the best practice, bring it together to give a consistent approach across the force. As it stands, I do have 2 vacancies that I am definitely aware of from the meeting earlier in the week in my neighbourhood teams. So there are 2 wards currently, I can't give you the names of them, but I will find them out for you if you want, that don't have anybody allocated to them at the moment.
He's claiming that 18 wards in Oldham have neighbourhood police officers, named neighbourhood police officers. 18, there are apparently 18 police officers. And he's come to the meeting in Oldham without knowing which of the 2 wards that he's aware of, so he's trying to give himself some wiggle room, which of the 2 wards don't have any neighbourhood level police officers named. Who believes him? Look at him. Who believes him? Who believes he's being honest and transparent?
Aiming to have our neighbourhood team up to full strength for March. From March, the Chief has made it known that it will be his view that they are not obstructed from neighbourhood duties. Now, I'll always give a degree of caveat, right? Fundamentally, the warrant card says they are a police officer in England and Wales. If Armageddon breaks out and something drastic is going on and we need numbers, sometimes that would need to happen. However, that would be in extremis. So from March, beginning of April at the latest, when the neighbourhood model goes live, that is the commitment we've got from the Force Command team. My job is to deliver it.
So in 3 months' time, from March, you've heard him, all 20 wards in Oldham will have a sergeant assigned to them, a neighbourhood lead, and I presume they will have a team underneath them, and that team will be named. Anyone care for a wager? My friend David's on here. David, I'm just guessing, David. David Gidman's on here. Care for a wager, David? We can have a lunch at Morrison's in Fellsworth. Big spender, me. Lunch at my, yeah. Care for a wager? John's already beat me to it. I would not trust him to deliver a pizza. Oh. I would not trust him to deliver a pizza. Mate, you're not going to have a named police officer, sergeant, in all 20 with a team underneath him. He's just taking the piss out of all of you, isn't he? He's just taking the piss out of all of you. He's laughing at you. You can see he's laughing at you.
Thank you. Two questions from the Conservative group, Councillor Sheldon and Councillor Arnott. Councillor Sheldon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief Superintendent, for meeting us today and updating us with details. At this time of year, many of our constituents will be out and about preparing for Christmas and enjoying the many festivities around the borough. They'll be on our high streets and on our roads. Unfortunately, there are those that are putting everyone else's life at risk. Dangerous drivers who knowingly and willingly flout the speed limits to show off, racing around the borough with complete disregard for the law. Having spoken to residents in my constituency, it is clear that it is a persistent problem, with it being observed each Saturday in Upper Mill, just as one of unfortunately many examples that I have been informed of. As you will be aware, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of pedestrians on the high streets of our borough each weekend, more so at the moment, given that it is the season of festivities and works Christmas parties. These people who are simply out enjoying themselves frequently walk into the road, and unfortunately, given the dangerous drivers I have just mentioned, this is an accident waiting to happen. I believe that we should be proactive in responding to this, as a failure to deal with this issue now will unfortunately mean that we will have to react when something does go wrong. And this driving leads to a tragic incident on our roads. If we can nip this problem in the bud by deterring these dangerous drivers, we can save lives. Speed guns have proven to be a useful tool both to identify dangerous drivers and deter those who may be considering such reckless behaviour, with police use of them in the Oldham area previously having led to multiple prosecutions. Something needs to be done to reduce the level of dangerous speeding across Oldham, and my question to the Chief Superintendent is this. Are the issues that I have mentioned being dealt with sufficiently? Do the police have enough resources to deal with this issue, and what can this council be doing that would help in any way? For example, can we request the use of the handheld speed guns to catch out these speeding drivers? Using it remotely and in different locations with the hope that the element of surprise may do the trick. Word will soon get around, and after a few fines, we may be able to control this idiotic behaviour. Thank you, Chief Superintendent, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Sorry, if you heard me cough there. Graham Sheldon, Council in Saddleworth, wants Upper Mill High Street dealing with. That's what this is about. It's about Upper Mill High Street. And some other roads up there. And he wants police officers hiding behind bushes with a speed gun. Fine. It took about 4 minutes to ask that question. Indeed, Amanda. It took about 4 minutes to ask that question. And he wants more speed guns. He wants more speed guns. Of all the issues in this town, you got the most senior police officer there, and Graham Sheldon wants more speed guns. This is the leader of the opposition. The policeman's going to enjoy this. It's safe ground for him.
Thank you very much for the question. Obviously, we kind of covered some of it in an earlier question around the increase in traffic officers, and I appreciate everybody doesn't see each other's questions. So it's so we have covered a bit of it off there. We are investing heavily in traffic officers, and they are the key deterrent and ability to prosecute. Greater Manchester Police does have a department that does operate mobile speed cameras. We do put bids in for various parts of the borough for them to come over, and they have been very successful when they've come, acting as a deterrent as much as a prosecution. We are looking into the possibility of training up a number of our neighbourhood officers who understand the local complexities around areas where speeding is particularly rife, around their ability to be able to do a bit of ad hoc work as well, because what does make it more of a deterrent is that ability to just go and do it for half an hour and then put it away again and get on with the rest of the job, rather than parking up and being there. Because I don't know what your Facebooks are like in your community, but where I live in Brighouse, as soon as somebody parks a speed van anywhere, it's all over Facebook.
Okay. Let's ignore his Facebook is the problem for a moment. He's claiming neighbourhood police officers could be doing this with the mobile speed guns. And he's already said 18 of the wards have mobile police officers. Neighbourhood police officers, sorry. 18 of the 20 wards have neighbourhood police officers, and he's claiming, why are you hypothesising? If this can be done and if it's important, why aren't they already doing it? Why aren't they already doing it? You can see, it's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Okay, and I think I'm pretty confident that things will be very similar around here. So the ability to just pop up for half an hour, do it, put it away, and then perhaps get it out again later and not be there for the full day does make a difference. So we're looking into that possibility at the moment. When it comes to what...
He's looking into the possibility. How many years have mobile speed guns been in operation? He's looking into the possibility of giving mobile speed guns to his police officers to have in their car. The neighbourhood ones. He's not even committing into it. He's not even committed to it. He's looking into the possibility. He's looking into the possibility. You pay this man's wages. Most senior police officer in Oldham.
What can the council do to help about it is what the biggest issue will be, is buying the speed guns. But if we get to that point, then that's something I can address to the community safety part.
Sorry, wrong camera. Give me a second. He wants the council. He wants you to pay for the speed guns because the council is your money. He wants you to pay for the speed guns. After having record year on year, what, 200, 300% increase in the Andy Burnham mayor's tax and the policing fees, he wants you to pay for the speed guns. He'll be wanting you to pay for the donuts next.
Potentially, and we'll have a look at how's best to fund that. But I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief Superintendent, for taking the time to come this afternoon. In the early hours of the morning on Tuesday the 13th of July 2021, the car belonging to the then Council Leader OMBC was subject to a firebomb attack in Glodwick. This extremely concerning event attracted a significant amount of publicity in the local and national press and on the television news. Politicians from all sides, including the Prime Minister, offered their support to Councillor Shah. At the time, Detective Chief Inspector Wesley Knights described the attack as a reckless, abhorrent act and further pledged that we will not rest until the circumstances surrounding this incident are fully understood and those responsible are brought to justice. Despite CCTV footage of the act itself being freely available on social media and some 17 months on, nobody appears to have been charged in relation to this shocking attack on a property of a high-profile public figure in our town. Notwithstanding the limitations that I accept Chief Superintendent Bowen will be bound by when commenting on an ongoing investigation, could he please make a brief statement on JMP's failure to bring anyone to justice in relation to this crime? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor, for the question. Obviously, there is very limited that I can say in a public meeting about this, but what I can confirm is that it's still an open investigation. I've read the review myself today, just to make sure exactly where we are with it, and we are in regular contact with the complainant to keep her up to date with exactly where we are with the investigation. As soon as we're in a position to make any more positive announcements on it, we will obviously do so.
Absolute bollocks. Absolute bollocks. And by the way, Dave Arnott, I need to buy you a drink. I owe Dave Arnott a drink for that. And the Chief Superintendent is talking absolute bollocks. 18 months later, and it's still an open investigation. Bollocks. You tried to frame me with it. You and your mates, including Jim McMahon, tried to frame me. And if it's an open investigation, it's only open because you're still trying to figure out a way if you can frame me for it. I think it's very, very clear what took place with that car. An unlocked car where the window was smashed after the door was open. I think we know what's happened. I think you know what's happened. And this bent police officer definitely knows what's happened. And that's how corrupt this town is. Because the police are complicit with the criminals and the corrupt council officers and the politicians. They all work together. They all work together. He looked at the case this morning. They're in regular contact with the complainant. Who blew up Arood Shah's car? Well, in the Miss Marple and Poirot shows I watch over Christmas, the suspect would always have a motive. Well, I didn't have a motive. My motive was to beat her at the ballot box. Racism. We need to shut those guys up. We need to shut that Raja Mir up. We need to shut his supporters up. I know what the motive. I know what I think the motive was. If my car was blown up, and then leaked CCTV footage that I did not know about, afterwards shows that I did not park my car outside my house, outside someone else's house, that in one of the highest crime rate areas in the country, I left my car unlocked, and that the people who blew it up smashed the window after the door had been opened. I know who I'd be. I know I would be interviewed as a suspect. That is the question for Chris Bowen. Has the former leader of Oldham Council been interviewed under caution? It's a simple yes or no. And if it's a no, why not? It is only a matter of time before the government come in and take over Oldham Council. It is only a matter of time before Chris Bowen runs to the hills and hides behind his pension. It is only a matter of time. Because justice will one day be done in this town. It comes for everyone. And it will come for these three. Bowen, Bentwistle, McMahon, Shah, and all the others. Good afternoon, Oldhamite. Yeah, obvious questions, Yvonne. And that video, remember, and it's important to remember, that video only made it into the public domain, not because the police released it, which they ordinarily would have done when they're looking for criminals. The police would have released that video, they didn't. Why didn't they? That video only went into the public domain because anti-cartel activists from within Glodick leaked me that video to help protect me. And when the police took my phone, when they bogusly arrested me, they went through my phone looking to try and identify who the source of that leak was. Oh yeah. We all know what's going on in Oldham, don't we? We all know. Let's finish him off.
Thank you. Two questions from the Failsworth Independent Party, Councillor Holbin and Councillor Ray. Councillor Holbin, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief Super, for coming today. Just a quick question for me, Chris. I think it was 14 months ago when you mentioned the rotas of neighbourhood policing. And I'm still aware in Failsworth, for us, it's either everybody in or everybody off, including the PCSOs, and I just wondered if we'd got any further with the rotas to try and spread the neighbourhood bobby right across the 7 days rather than us having weekends with nobody in and stuff like that. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll be aware from the conversations we had back in the town at the time that there was something I was really keen to get sorted. You'll be pleased to know that the police officers have been warned of their new rotas, which will spread them out. We're still in negotiations with the unions around the police staff, i.e. PCSOs, but it is our intention to move towards the PCSOs falling onto the same as the new PC's rota. And that would mean that you'll get coverage across the board rather than all of a team for a particular area being on at the same time. And that formed part of the neighbourhood review.
Okay. So we're clear. Brian's question is, even though you might have a named police officer in Failsworth, in the two Failsworth wards, in the wards, there's no one out on the police, on the beat 7 days a week. Because the entire team, when they go off on leave, they're all off on leave together. So some days, they're left without police officers. And this will be the same in every other ward. They're left without police officers because they all go on holiday together. They all go take their days off together. And Bowen's response is, yeah, we're dealing with it in the future. Remember, he raised this 14 months ago. So in the 14 months, it hasn't been addressed. In the 14 months that have gone, it hasn't been addressed.
Councillor Ray.
Hi, good afternoon, and thanks again for updating us. I was just wondering if you've got any feedback on the helpline that was set up for the CSE victims in the borough and whether it's been helping with your investigations.
Yeah, there was contact. I don't have the exact figures on me, but contacts have been made via that helpline. All the partners then deal with it, triage any of the kind of things that are made aware of, people that we perhaps weren't engaging with beforehand, so those conversations can take place. And we are in a position where what we have agreed to do is give regular updates at the cross-party CSE accountability group on the exact figures, etc. But yes, it was really useful to have that, because what I will always say is I want anybody to contact us about anything, and I'm really relaxed how they do it, whether it's written on a postcard and popped under the front door of the police station, via 101 999 online, or any additional helplines, any additional means for any victim of any offence to come forward to ourselves or to the local authority will always be welcomed.
Okay, he shifts it. He shifts it to any crime, and he wants a postcard slipped under the mat at the police station. But he hasn't got the figures with him. For the biggest issue in this town, which is the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children, he hasn't got the figures of how many victims have called the helpline. Yeah. The lad's a chancer, John. Put it on a postcard and slip it under the front door. It's full of crap, isn't it? It's absolutely full of crap. A more appropriate word, perhaps, Amanda. His behaviour is shameful. It is. His behaviour is shameful. If you are taking value in this transmission, the 153 of you who've took time out, we've had more than an hour and a half, so I'm going to stop it there. I think there's lots more to go through, and I will go through with it. I might do something tomorrow, depending on how my day pans out. I might come back this evening, depending on how my day pans out. In fact, I'll probably will come back this evening to continue this. But there's only 34 likes. No one's bought me a coffee, and there have been no new subscriptions to there has. There's been one new subscription to the web page. I'll just put that in and I'll tell you exactly where we're up to. We are now, for these transmissions to continue, for this analysis to continue, for this. Well, let's be honest. Why do we have an opposition in the town? It's because of this. And I've opted out of informing and shaping the public questions, which I'll go through later, and you'll see what's happened as a consequence of that. I know where the coordination comes from. It comes from here. I know where the information comes from. I know where the education comes from. And I know where the resistance to this tyranny in this town, led by those who control our council, is coordinated from. It's here. No one else is going to do this. If anyone else was going to do this, they would have done it by now. I don't promote myself. I've never promoted myself. And I find it really uncomfortable promoting myself. But we will lose. If I can't afford to hit basically minimum wage, that's all I'm asking for, minimum wage, in terms of memberships and subscriptions where people can subscribe from £1 for 2.5 pence a day. We don't have halfpence anymore, but that's what it's the equivalent of. then what point is this? What point is this? I'll come back this evening. Hopefully we're closer to the target. As it stands, it's £267 a month short. $20 new people with £10 subscriptions will get us more or less over the line. So it's entirely up to all of you. Who's going to provide this analysis? Who's going to provide the fight? And as you can see, that council chamber was empty because they prevented people from going in. They don't want the scrutiny. They have been trying to block the scrutiny since I started. They don't want a politically educated town. They don't want to be held to account. They want to carry on as it used to be, where they covered up the grooming and gang rape of our town's children, sold our community assets, secretly funded the cartels. They want to go back to that. And it's irrespective of all the nonsense out there from some other people, the only place that has been consistently fighting for this town and the people of this town for the last 4 years and inspiring the opposition is from here. I'd rather not go and work in an Amazon warehouse, but I know I'd earn more if I did. So it's entirely up to you. And with a bit of luck, I'll see you this evening where I'll carry on with this meeting.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.